Hey guys, this is Gaines with another super exciting video about how the mechanics work in the Infinite Black. Due to the responses I got from the last video, I added this noise to try to make things a little bit more exciting. So the next video I wanted to do was a video on how the damage mechanic works, but it's necessary that we take a look into this issue prior to doing so. What I'm talking about here is how evasion versus hit works. The issue that I'm talking about is how Spellbook shows two different versions on their website about how the mechanic between hit versus evasion works. So let's take a look at the first version. Here we have a screen on the Spellbook website that shows some nice clean equations that are fairly easy to understand to calculate hit, miss, critical, graze, etc. If we take a close look at these, you'll notice that the latter three equations all revolve around the first equation, being how miss is calculated, being accurate. What you'll notice about the miss equation is that if your evasion is high enough, eventually a person would not be able to hit you.
Let's look at an example.
Let's say we had a ship with 210 evasion, and we had another ship with no hit bonus. The result would be 105% miss chance, which means we would never hit the ship. The other version of how Spellbook explains it on their website is this roll system. So in the same situation, the ship with the evasion would roll a virtual dice from 1 to 210, and the hit chance ship would roll a dice from 0 to 100. And then of course whatever dice roll was higher would win, essentially. So herein lies the issue. If it is in fact a roll system, then regardless of how high the evasion is, you're always going to have a chance to hit. For example, in this same situation, the evasion ship could roll a 23 and the hit ship could roll a 58, which is obviously higher. So let's try to understand how we would make an equation for the roll system if we were to do so. I've simplified things a bit by making the potential rolls up to 10. So as you can see, there's 100 different possibilities, obviously 10 times 10. We'll start out by just marking the potential rolls that are going to be ties. On the Spellbook website, as you can see here, it shows that the tie rolls go towards the evasion winning. So now let's mark all the potential rolls that are going to result in a hit. You can see that it accounts for 50% of the graph. We still have to make an adjustment for the tie rolls, but we'll get into that shortly. For now, we can conclude that our number of hit rolls is hit squared divided by 2. Now, to be completely accurate, we have to subtract the amount of tie rolls that were factored into our equation that shouldn't be there, which will be exactly half of our hit chance, in this case 5. So here's the equation that we can use to predict how many potential hit rolls there will be. So this works on a simplified version of the chart. Let's see what happens when we add more evasion to it. So as you can see, as the chart expands to the right and we add more evasion, the number of hits we actually make doesn't change, or at least the number of rolls that hit. All that changes is the number of total potential rolls, which diminishes the percentage of hit rolls. Hence the last portion of the equation that we're going to add. We simply divide our hit rolls by our total potential rolls. So the result of the equation I have shown on the screen here is our actual hit percentage. Now keep in mind this equation is only going to work if our potential evasion rolls is higher than our potential hit rolls. If our potential hit rolls is higher than our potential evasion rolls, we would invert the chart and calculate for evasion rather than hit. So in this equation particularly, it's rather confusing. So luckily for you guys, you don't have to worry about any of these equations because I've already taken the liberty of doing that for you. The complexity of trying to solve hit versus miss in one equation rather than two might be the reason why he chose to display a somewhat accurate equation on the website rather than a 100% accurate equation. So let's get down to the bottom of if the roll system is actually used or the equation posted on the spellbook website is actually what's used to establish miss chance. So I formulated a test to find out for sure what's actually used. In the following test, we're going to get one of two results, which I've shown on the screen here, based on the stats of the attacking ship versus the stats of the defending ship. Keep in mind this is an average, because of course when you're rolling dice, we're not always going to get the exact percentage. There's a margin of error to it. It's all based off a chance. So the stats of our two ships here, we have a little Corvette. It's got -8 hit, and I've got my carrier on the screen, and that has 150 evasion. So the result should be either around 82% miss or 70% miss. So we do this test enough times and it should become apparent to us what system's actually used. Now keep in mind, this isn't the only test I've done. I had to do it several times to be sure, but this one represents a clear version of what's happening here. I've sped this video up so that we can count how many hits we actually make. We can deduct how many misses we actually make based on the amount of time that's elapsed, because we're shooting every 3 seconds. Throughout the duration of the 12-minute or so period that goes by, we're going to make 264 shots, and 74 of them are actually going to hit. I don't blame you one bit if you skip ahead to the end of the test, but I've provided the evidence just in case someone questioned it. Hang tight a few more seconds, the test is almost over. So the final result of our little test here is a 72% miss rate. So that means that the roll system described in the text is actually what's happening, that the equation is actually wrong. Although under normal situations, I will say that it's relatively accurate. It's just in extreme cases where hit and miss are really far spread apart that the equation becomes inaccurate. I've said before that you won't have to worry about doing any of these calculations yourself because I've done them for you. That's because I've created a spreadsheet online that you can go on and actually do the calculations yourself by just punching in your stats. You can find it at tinyurl.com/tibdps2. Thanks again for watching, guys.